Well, good morning, folks. It's Sunday morning from a very wet and rainy and grim Somerset in the UK. It's time for me to be making my morning mate, and I figured now's as good a time as any to introduce you to a brand that I've been drinking quite a bit of recently. That's fairly new to me. I know it's been around for a long time, but it's fairly new to me personally. And it is pretty much one of the top shelf mates, so it's one of the best ones you can get. And the brand in question today is Merced. This particular one, which I'll be reviewing today, is Merced de Monte, and I'll explain a little bit about the difference between these. So basically, you've got de Monte, which is this one, which we'll have a talk about in a review today. There's also Merced, de Campo, and Barbacoa. Now I've only tried 3 of those, which are the de Monte, the Merced, and the Barbacoa, because getting the de Campo is really chuffing difficult. I don't know why. Perhaps there's production problems, but in any case, yeah, I just can't seem to get it at all at the moment. So I've not tried that one, but this one here has become a firm favourite of mine. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so let's get into it. The brand Merced is made by a family-owned company called Las Marillas. Very, very well known in Argentina. Unusually for a Yerba, it doesn't come in a bag as such. It comes in a box inside a foil pouch. This is the first time I've ever seen this, actually. And I guess it stands to reason. I guess it keeps it a lot fresher and a lot, it keeps the damp out and things, and the humidity. But again, it's a premium quality Yerba, this one. So rather typically of any Argentinian Yerba, I'll just pour some out here. You can see a very, very typical cut, very typical Argentinian cut. There's a bit of paro, good quality leaf. Really good quality leaf, actually. You can see, hopefully you can see the colour of this is, it's not quite as grey-green as a lot of the Yerbas that I have. It's actually slightly more vibrant. I can't really think how to describe it, and the light in my kitchen here is not the best either, especially not on a day like today. But very, very typical Argentinian cut, and the palo that you can see here at the side, the little white sticks, they're quite finely cut. So it's pretty uniformly cut. It's not big and chunky or anything else. So I've already made up my mate. I've already prepared it with the water. I prepared my water and put it into my mate and just given it the first soak. So we're pretty much ready to go on this front. Today I'm going to be drinking with a nice little mate I bought some time ago, which has got leaves on it, and a beautiful alpaca silver bombilla. So like I say, the Las Marillas or La Merced do a number of different varieties. Now this one here, de Monte, is one of the stronger ones, and when I mean strong, when I say strong, I don't mean necessarily in terms of caffeine or anything like that, but its flavour is intense, and that's exactly what it says on the packet. It says intense and vigorous. Excuse the puppy whining in the background. So yeah, like I said, I have tried 3 of their different types, their different particular types of mate from La Merced, and this one hands down is my favourite so far, hands down. So I'll get on with the review. Okay, so as the name suggests, de Monte, the leaves for this Yerba are actually grown in the mountainous areas of rainforest, so a lot more altitude, apparently high humidity, also cooler as well than down in the lowlands, and apparently this gives it a very, very distinctive flavour, or makes it that much sort of stronger in much the same way as a mountain grown coffee bean, or grape in fact, gives a sort of a slightly more, well, a much more sort of robust, sort of powerful flavour than you would get from something that's been grown in fine alluvial friable soils. So one of these days I would absolutely love to go to Argentina, to some of these plantations, and just have a look at the difference. But that's on the bucket list. For the moment, yeah, so this one is grown in the mountainous regions, the mountainous areas of the plantation. And consequently, the flavour is very, very different. It's a lot stronger, it's a lot more powerful in terms of notes and things like that. The Campo Sur, for example, which is the other one, which I'm a lot more familiar with, much more mild, sort of easy drinking. This one, definitely not for the beginner. That said, let's get into it first of all, that said, because actually, so I was in Romania for work this week. I had to go over there and do some training for some of my team. So I basically manage a team of people in the UK and a team in Romania, and we do forest product supply chain analysis. Oh yeah, I'll get into the flavours in a moment. But whilst I was over there, I managed to recruit a member of my team into Mate. And whenever I travel, I always take a couple of spares. I always take a couple of spare bombijas, a couple of spare mates. I'd never carry a spare flask, but in any case, I left her with some, with some goodies, a mate, a bombija, some herb to get her started. But I'm really pleased. And the herb that I gave her was actually one which is, I wouldn't really consider it necessarily a starter mate, not in the same way as something like Placidito, which is sort of really sweet, and if you're not used to the bitterness of mate. But she took to it like a duck to water. Boom. She was really appreciating the strong, intense flavour. And that's what this mate is all about. So, right off the bat, I get there's a kind of flavour almost like dates, but without the sweetness. It's a lot more like tobacco or oak. It's got almost like a strong tannin finish, but it's this flavour. It's so strong and so intense. So I'm getting, like I said, date, but strong dates. Shush now, that's the puppy. I'm getting tobacco. I'm getting earthy notes. Soil. That sounds like a horrible thing to say. Tastes like soil, but actually, when you get that petrichor smell from soil after rain, when it's been dry for a while, it's that kind of petrichor flavour, if you know what I mean. And the mouthfeel is beautiful. It's this beautiful silky mouthfeel that leaves these really sort of complex and bitter notes. Definitely not one for the beginner, but definitely one for the connoisseur. I can see why this is a top shelf mate. This has become one of my go-tos just since I've had it in the last month or so. I mean, honestly, I've got a ridiculous amount of yerba mate right now that I could not buy any more and I'll be fine for years. I'll be fine for at least a few years. I've got so much. But there's so many different brands that I want to try and things like that. And there's sort of availability issues sometimes. So much like with pipe tobacco, if I come across a brand that I really like but that isn't always in stock, then sometimes I'll buy a couple of bags and put them in a cupboard. But so really important thing to note with this one, because it's got so much more of an intense flavour, and the flavour is really, really intense. It's best to use cooler water. So personally, I recommend somewhere around about 68, 70 degrees, something like that. Any hotter than that, and it really does sort of bring out the bitterness and kind of kills the lots of other flavors that you get from it. So yeah, I'm almost getting cigar tobacco, cigar notes. That's maybe because I'm biased, because I'm often smoking a cigar. But so in terms of a cycle, in a mate, this sort of size is sort of traditional, smaller Argentinian mate. I would expect really to get about 3/4 of a litre out of the mate before it starts to get that lavado kind of flavour, or the flavour starts to wash out. But what you find is after the first couple of fills, as with any mate really, I think this is true of any mate at all, any yerba at all. First couple of fills, and it just starts to mellow out, it starts to even out. You lose a lot of that bitterness, and some of the other flavours sort of come through. So there's something quite floral now, even on this third cycle. Yeah, there's something quite floral, some floral notes coming through a little bit more than in that first bowl, first cycle. Smell as well. If you put your nose into it like that, again, I'm getting raisins, dates. There's a sweetness. It's so funny because it smells sweet. You've got this really sort of sweet dried fruit kind of nose to it, but flavour-wise, taste-wise, nothing of the sort. No, there's no sweetness here. This is, as I say, personally, I wouldn't say for the beginners. That said, I'm one of those guys that comes from a background of always drinking my coffee sweetened and my tea sweetened. So I always had much more of a preference for sweeter things, sweeter drinks. Mate, oddly enough, is the opposite for me. So the more strong, the more bitter, the better, really. I mean, I love a good espresso and things like that, but I can appreciate why you kind of have beginner mates and more experienced mates, or yerbas, I should say. I still make that schoolboy mistake of calling it a mate and not a yerba. But so, you know, if you come from a background like me where you're used to taking your tea sweetened and things like that, then this is definitely not one to start with. But that said, I think you could work up to this pretty damn quickly. And I know a lot of people, like my colleague last week. Oh, I need to go and check on the puppy. One moment. And we're back. Yep. So, sorry, yeah, puppy is going absolutely nuts at the moment. He's driving me crazy. He's so intense, but... Yeah, so like I was saying, if you come from a background such as myself and your flavours have always been to, or your preference has always been to sugar or sweeten your tea or coffee, then moving straight into a mate like this, I think is going to be a little bit more challenging for you. So I definitely sort of start with something like the Playa Dito or something like that, or Cruz de Malta. That said, if you do like a good intense espresso, I mean a really good sort of Italian kind of quality espresso, then this is the dog's bollocks. It's a really good equivalent in my opinion. Yeah, there's that dates flavour again, almost like bitter dates. Let's give it another top up. So as far as caffeine goes, there's nothing too much to write home about with this. I have found if I drink something like Taragui, very, very common, popular mate, I will be rushing my head off halfway through the day. I've not found the same with this. I found it to be really quite mellow in terms of caffeine content, to be honest. So nothing really too intense or strong about the caffeine content. It's all about the flavour with this one. Oh, such good stuff. So if you're here in the UK where I am, the Monte is kind of in and out of availability. Now, I was just looking on Euroshop a couple of days ago for something else, and I noticed they didn't have any more of this stuff. Otherwise, I would have bought more. So this is currently my last box. Excuse me. Good for the digestion. Well, my last little bag, bit of it. So it's one of those ones that you kind of have to, when they get it, when the shops like Euroshop get it, or matemundo.com get it, it sells out very, very quickly. Like I said, La Merced is a top shelf mate. It's very, very popular, and obviously with good reason. And obviously this is one of the more popular varieties of it. So what I would definitely suggest is, if you're a mate drinker and you love it as much as I do, if you come across some of this stuff, pick yourself up a box, even if you don't intend to open it just at the minute, because it does seem to come and go in terms of availability. But definitely give it a go. If you love mate as much as I do, this is absolutely a top shelf, top quality yerba. And I really am very, very pleased with it indeed. So that was it. A little bit longer than I'd intended on this review, but there you go. It's so good. It's so good. It really, because the flavour is so intense, it just wakes that brain up. Fantastic stuff. But anyway, I'll leave the video there. If you've got any thoughts, if you've had it before or whatever else, or if you've tried any others, let me know, drop a note in the comments. Other than that, I will pick up next time around with another yerba review soon enough. You folks take care.